So I'll kind of MC a little bit. We'll just pass the mic around. We have not practiced, so this is just an overflow of freshly getting back from our trip. We have a few pictures we're going to show you to help springboard some thoughts and give you a little more context. But yeah, let's just have a fun time of sharing. So any big picture thoughts or impressions that you guys want to start with before we start scrolling through some pictures?
Yeah, the one thing I want to say is just thanks Leslie for organizing the prayer clock, and thank you everybody for filling in slots and praying for us around the clock while we were there. The effects of those prayers were really felt, I think, by all of us with how smoothly travel went, how just rich our time was while we were there, and it really was just a special time, and I think that wouldn't have been possible had you guys not been praying for us the whole time. So just really appreciate that. I know we all really appreciate all the prayer that went into this week for us.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Yeah, everything we needed is in the presence of God. We can't really effectively do ministry if God's presence doesn't come and He doesn't back things up. When the cars break down, when we're over there, unless God shows up and has creative solutions, then we're kind of stuck. But He was in all of that and took care of all those things. And it wasn't without its challenges, so we should tell you that up front. Will, even at the beginning, was kind of sick, but he got better quickly. And so again, just thanks for all the prayers.
So one thing that struck me while we were there, if you have ever traveled outside of your culture and language, there's a lot of differences, sometimes some culture shock, lots of things to learn. And so when it comes to us and the Hondurans, we don't have a common culture. We don't have much of a common language. We're just struggling by as best we can in Spanish. But
Katie didn't struggle very much.
I've had some practice. But for us, the common language is Christ. And so, to go somewhere to meet people who are strangers to me, Will and I had never been there before, but to immediately feel at home, that part of that is a product of how very hospitable the Honduran culture is. But so much of that is that we share the common language of Christ. We share a common purpose with the people we were visiting. And so that really overlaid so much of our trip. We share these things in common, and so it's it almost fast tracks you to being friends and family. And I've had that experience in a couple of other cultures too. So I imagine that is a fairly common experience when you're going somewhere and you're meeting believers, even from another culture or language.
It's kind of neat. It's like Jake's story with the young man from India, that common bond of Christ, just anywhere in the world. It transcends everything. Amazing. Will, what do you got, buddy?
What I noticed, in the first maybe 4 or 3 days when we were there, is that they don't pay attention to strict rules or hardly at all. They'll drive, even if there's a double yellow line on the road, they'll still go to the other lane just to avoid a pothole or something. And then we're also allowed to ride in the back of the trucks on the highways there, and that's really fun.
Good stuff. Yeah, anybody ever been to another country? Driving's always different, isn't it? So much so that usually you're glad someone else is doing it. Some of you might be brave enough to rent a car, but Honduras, yeah.
And I'll share a little too about some of the content of kind of our trip. We knew going in that it was going to be we did a lot of great ministry last time, and we did a lot of cool ministry this time, but we knew going in it was going to be very relational, which was great because we felt like we were just building on the foundation of the relationships that we had kind of established last time. So there were a lot of people that we knew, felt like we got to kind of go deeper with some of them, and we knew going in that it was just going to be largely a lot of care needs of the people in their church, because a lot of people we kind of got a little picture of it last year, but this year definitely the issue that they're dealing with immigration, and how kind of the families, it's hard to find work sometimes. It's hard to get paid enough, especially if you don't have education there's no minimum wage, so it's just really difficult to make ends meet. So for a lot of families, that means sending somebody to the United States legally and most of the time illegally to work there and then send money back. So a lot of times it's the fathers of the household, the husbands, who are going to the States to send money back, and we're just very aware of how hard that is on the family. We talk to people, and they're like, the older generations, like, it's not right to break the family up. Like, sometimes it's unavoidable, but it's not right to like willingly send somebody to break up the family just to care for the family itself. The family needs to stick together. Like, this isn't a good option. And then other families who are like, we don't really have any other choice, and sometimes the men just make up their minds that they're going to go, and they can't get nobody's going to change their minds, and they said, they'll say, I'm going to go for 3 years or 5 years to work, and a lot of times they just never come back, and then they find another family, or they start a family in the States, and then eventually they stop sending money back. And it's just this huge cultural problem that they're dealing with how easy it is to illegally immigrate into the U.S. and how much trouble that's causing in their communities and families. And there was one guy that we had met last time. We got there on Friday, and he had left on Thursday, I think, to go to the U.S. And it was just hard on Ricardo and Paula because they were very close with this couple, so they're left kind of caring for the family. The wife, the mom, didn't want him to leave, and and there were some other cases of that happening recently, but like within the past year or so. So there's just so many challenges with that, and we were just kind of there in the middle of that, like just praying for people, listening really well, trying to care as much as we can. Because it's a big issue. Seems like it was very much kind of in our face this time a lot. Like, we were just confronted by that reality of immigration and the challenges that it brings to families, to the community, kind of on a whole bunch of different levels. So that was very much a big theme of this trip. So it was nice to be able to be there and feel like we had enough relationship to care and to bring something, kind of some comfort to people and get to pray with them and minister to them.
Yeah, a couple of these, one family had left, a couple other guys had left. I mean, some of these people are some of their best friends and pillars in the church there. That's hard. It's really hard. And how it affects those left behind, the wife, the kids. And on top of that, I don't know if some of you guys know, but Ricardo's dad had passed away this past year. So there's another loss. There was a young girl, I think she was 15. She was killed in a motorcycle accident this past year, and she was raised in the church there. So that was a huge loss. There's just so much soul care kind of stuff needed on this trip. Yeah. Well, should we go through some of the pictures and talk a little bit about our experience? I put that up there for Will. Anything you want to say there, Will?
I think I'm a little bit better at chess than Diana, but she's still pretty good.
One of Will's highlights, I think, was playing with the Garmendia girls and some of the other kids there. Is that right? Yeah. Any other experiences from playing with them you want to share about? Things you enjoyed doing?
We played in the dark hide and seek one night, and that was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. The two oldest Garmendia girls go to a school, and they're being taught English, so they're both pretty fluent in English. So it was good for be able to get to hang with them because they could serve as backup translators a lot of times. So their English skills are really great.
And if you don't know who we're talking about, if you're new here, the Garmendias are the family that are, the pastor, his wife, Ricardo and Paula, and then they have 3 daughters that we're calling the Garmendia girls. So, all right, next. Yeah, this is the place where we stayed. Next. Now, I wanted you guys to know that you helped contribute to giving a few gifts to the Garmendia girls and Ricardo and Paula. So we gave them some soccer balls, Katie gave him the game Spot It, and we gave a communion set to Ricardo and Paula and some MVVC t-shirts, which you'll see them in later. But they love their soccer balls, and we did get to play a little soccer later in the week. Next. Okay, Cameron, you want to talk about this gathering at all?
So this was Saturday night. They had a small group. And last year, Saturday night, we had a small group that was also a birthday party. This one was also a birthday party. So that little girl in the dress, she just turned 3. So, we were singing worship songs. We sang Happy Birthday. They brought out food and then cake and Coke. And it was really cool. And I think there's a picture of me sharing. I kind of got to lead part of it. So I just shared really briefly. So kind of staring at the camera there. But, I just shared some. Maybe 3 or 5 minutes. I didn't have anything big. And then we just got into some ministry time. And it took a little bit of time to get it off the ground. But there was some really impactful stuff going on. Praying for some families. God was just hitting some people kind of right where they're at, dealing with some anger stuff and some different kind of emotional things. And for healing for different people and peace. And it was just really amazing. It was great to have something like that early in the week, because then we got to follow up with those people throughout the week and see kind of how they were doing, what God was doing through them or doing in them during this time. And I think there's one more picture of this gathering. You got to pray. That's Benicia. She normally cooks the meals when we're there, but she had some health issues this time, like some back challenges and some leg cramps that made her think that she wouldn't be quite up to the task of cooking for us all week. But it was great. Wade was leading the kids to pray for her. It's cool.
This, first of all, that little girl whose birthday it was, her dad is one of the guys, the one who left Thursday, right before we got there to go to the States, and she was having a really tough time. So it was neat that we could be there and celebrate her birthday with her, fill that void a little bit. This family here, really precious family. They don't live in Jamarangila where we go. They're a couple hours away. But Eric was here last year. He's the guy in the middle right in front of me. He came down last year because it's his brother who just left for the States on Thursday. And he was here this year to help with the family that was left behind a little bit. So his family came. So they happened to be with us last year and this year, and he was so tremendously impacted last year. And so I was able later on in the week to have a wonderful conversation with him just about more and more how to experience God's presence and what it means to live as a disciple, how to walk with God. So we had this really amazing conversation, and then we got to pray with his daughters. One of them was experiencing basically seeing these dark, shadowy figures, like demonic stuff, and her wrists would get all numb, and she was having problems with that, so she had physical problem, and then she was terrified with fear because of these demons. So we got to pray over her, and when I saw Eric several days later at the end of the week, he said she hasn't had any problems since then. And she said when we were praying for her, she could just feel like heat all over her body. So God was setting her free of some stuff there. It's pretty cool. Also at this gathering, we prayed for Benicia. We prayed for, I think we'll see pictures of these other people later, so I'll come back to that. Let's go to the next picture. Katie.
Yeah,
you look really short there.
I am sitting on the ground. I spent Sunday morning the way I usually do, which is with the kids. And so our kids' class collected sticker pages to send. We wanted to send a gift, but we wanted something small and easy to pack. And so our kids came through, and I think I took over 50 sticker sheets down. I was like, this might be too many, but all of the kids got to choose a sticker sheet, which was very exciting for them. They send their thanks. And so, I just got to participate. The young woman in the back is Alejandra, and she taught the kids class that day. They, similar to us, kind of have a rotation of people who teach. And so I got to meet all of the kids, and I did ask her. She taught the lesson, and she passed out. Every kid had a worksheet. They were just coloring, and I said, is it always just like this quiet in here, or is it just because I'm here? And she was like, oh no, it's always this quiet. And I was like, ooh, we might be doing something wrong. It's not always this quiet in MVVC kids class. But anyway, so that little boy that I'm sitting with there, his name is Elby. It's short for Elvis, or like Elvis. And I taught him how to play the dot game. I don't know what it's really called, but all the dots, you draw the lines and you put your name if you make a square. We played that a lot this week, the kids and I. So anyway, it was great to be in kids class and just to see how they do things there, to get to know the kids and to pray for them. And there we all are. The two girls in the matching dresses, the kind of green and pink and yellow, those are two of the Garmendia girls, Nayeli, who is 11, and then Margaret, who is 6. So
You look taller in that picture, Katie.
I'm pretty tall in Honduras.
Will?
This is me and the girls playing Monopoly Deal, which is a game that Katie brought to Honduras. And that was a day when I was sick, so I was staying in bed, and we played cards that day.
I tell you, it's pretty amazing that those girls speak English as well as they do. I mean, Diana, she's, I don't know, fairly fluent, I would say. She can translate for us at this point. Nayeli's getting really good. Margaret's learning English, so. And that's special because when you go there, there's like very few people who speak any English. So it's pretty cool what God's doing in that family. Okay. Anybody want to share about this one?
I can start us off. So the woman in red is Rosa, and the little cabin that you saw earlier is on her property. And so every morning we would walk just down the driveway to her house, and she would feed us breakfast, usually tortillas, eggs, and beans. But she did make pancakes a couple days,
and coffee. Don't forget coffee.
Coffee.
I didn't put a picture up there of you drinking, but I almost did.
I did drink some coffee, which I do not do in the United States. So anyway, one morning Rosa said, you should really go for a walk. She and her husband own a great deal of property. She said, you should go for a walk. And we said, well, you should go with us. So the next day she said, well, let's go. And so she led us up the mountain, really. It was quite a long walk, kind of more of a hike. And we got to the top, and there were beautiful views of La Esperanza, which is like the closest nearby neighboring town. And she talked about how she could feel the presence of God there. And before we left the top of the mountain, she said, well, let's pray. Like, come on, let's pray. So we prayed there on top of the mountain, and it was really cool, kind of this outdoor sanctuary.
Yeah. Good, well said.
And then we were an hour late for our next meeting, but it was no big deal because Honduran time runs even later than, like, Vineyard time.
You want to talk about this one? Yeah.
So this, the woman in the pink hat is Xiomara, and we first met her on Saturday night at the small group that Cameron talked about. The other woman in the jean jacket is her mother, Reina, and then Paula is Ricardo's wife and our translator. And so as Cameron had talked about and Wade, immigration is just a huge issue that the Hondurans are facing right now, seeing so many people leave. And we met almost no one all week who didn't have a husband or father or brother or son who was in the United States. That's where most people go. There's quite a few go to Spain as well. But these two women are two that have been deeply impacted by immigration. Xiomara's husband left about a year ago for the U.S., and he joined 2 or 3 brothers and maybe her father, we can't quite remember, but joined other family members in the U.S. So the one thing that they have going for them is that at least they are together, like they have some kind of built-in community and family where they are. But she is now living with her mother, her younger brother. Her son is Elby, the one that I mentioned earlier, and then her niece, Laura Sofia. Laura Sofia is a little girl, 6 or 7, and she's unique in that her dad is in the U.S. and her mom is in Spain. So she is staying there, with her aunt and her grandmother. And so I just felt like Xiomara had some really serious health issues after her husband left. Like since he left a year ago, she's been dealing with anxiety, but also like some pretty serious issues with her brain.
Yeah, maybe like a brain aneurysm type kind of thing, and pain.
Yeah, and so we had prayed for her Saturday night, and she seemed to be feeling physically better. But she still was dealing with a lot of anxiety, and I just felt like a real connection with her. By the time we visited her home, we'd seen her Saturday night, Sunday at church, and then again here. And so we just had an opportunity to pray for them. But yeah, you kind of put yourself in their shoes, or you try to. You imagine being in their shoes and saying goodbye to so many people you love, not knowing. Her husband said, I'll come back in 10 years. And he's been in the States for a year now. He said, I don't know, I might stay 20. And so you just think about the men who are missing their children's childhoods. You think about the desperation that drives them to that point, and what's happening to communities back home. So I just wanted to share a little bit about one of the people that we met who was deeply impacted.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one other, before we play this clip, one other story with the immigration thing. We were at a restaurant. Lucia owns the restaurant, and her son, somebody was on FaceTime with their son at the restaurant, hands it to Ricardo and Paula, and they're like, oh, hey, how's it going? And he's like, I'm in Spain. And they didn't even know that he was gone, and they just found out, and they're like, they're telling us, they're like, it's sad, but this happens all the time. Like, someone disappears, next thing you know, like, they're in this other country, and like, it doesn't surprise us anymore, but it's just really hard to be excited for them or to be excited for their family. And it's just really, really challenging. And like Katie said, there's a lot of nuances there because it's driven by desperation. It's driven by a bunch of different things. This is a real challenge.
One thing I'll say about Ricardo and Paula is they value the nuclear family, and they want people to do things the right way. And so they're a voice of wisdom to their community in that. Not everybody listens, but was really impressed at their perspective and their wisdom, and really felt like God's heart coming through them. So this is this gentleman that you're going to hear playing the guitar is Juan Carlos. We were at his church last year, and we got to do a service. Crazy stuff happened there. If you remember any stories from last year, there was like an earthquake in the spirit that people experienced. There were angels that people saw. We had a woman who was deaf get healed, along with several other people get healed. And we got to hang out in their home, and he and his family are pretty musical, so we got to do some worship together. I played some guitar. Cameron played some guitar. We tried to sing in Spanish, and his family prayed. So we thought we'd share this clip with you. We also had some really powerful time of praying for his family. Each family member had some words of knowledge for them. And I think everybody we prayed for, probably at least the 90-some percentile, cried. Like God was doing a lot of soul healing, a lot of stuff, and there's just tears really marked this trip when we would minister to people. People felt other things, like they felt the presence of God in heat or tingling or a cool sensation, like things when God was healing and stuff. But I think the major thing was tears, and it was just really precious. So I love it that we get to go back, when we get to go back like this, and then we hear some of the stories that we didn't even know the impact that we had on people until they share with us. So this was one of those experiences. Okay, next. Okay, Katie, you want to talk about this one? Oh, I'm playing guitar there. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, so another one of our small group meetings was Tuesday evening, and so I was on the docket to lead this one. And we met at Rosa's property. So the woman who made us hike up the mountain and made us breakfast every day hosted this gathering, and we met outside at her home, just a really beautiful place. Do you want to mention the training you realized you'd done there before?
Yeah, it was really neat. This spot was right where I was probably 11 years ago when I was there. We did a training, power evangelism training, and then we did these sort of events in this little town afterwards where we went through and prayed for people, invited them back for basically kind of a service that evening, and God did all kinds of amazing things when we had those services those evenings. But it hit me, this is like the exact same place where we had this training, so it was just really special for me to be there again.
Yeah, kind of a full circle moment. So so there were probably about a dozen adults at this gathering, and I wanted to do something kind of different, not something that's necessarily normal for us here, but we did something very visual and hands-on, where people chose a picture, and some of you have done this like at a couple of events before. We did this at our women's event. May led a group that did this before, but kind of choosing a picture and then letting God speak to you through that picture, and then we incorporated scripture and broke into small groups and prayed. So,
and we have a picture of the pictures.
Oh, okay, cool.
There you go.
Yeah, so I told people just like, don't think too hard about it. Choose a picture, and then everybody took 5 minutes or so to kind of listen to the Lord and see what he was saying through that. And then we got together in small groups and shared, and then prayed and ministered to one another and what people had shared. So I was kind of in teacher mode. I told them I teach elementary school as a substitute when I'm here, and so I wanted to do something a little bit fun and different.
Very good. She did a great job, by the way. All these guys did such a great job. I want to tell you a little bit about the young man there in the middle. He's one also that we prayed for last year. I don't remember specifically praying for him, but he said when we prayed for him, he had an experience that has marked his life, and ever since then has wanted to grow in the Lord and move toward the Lord. I think before that, I don't even know if he was really a believer, or at least really young in his faith. So that really changed him. And it's been a really tough road for him. His dad is not on board with his faith. And to the point to where he's had to lie to his dad about going to church, to try to keep the peace in the relationship and stuff. But he just has this hunger for the Lord, and he said what he experienced when we prayed for him, he can't turn back. He just has to have more of that. So we got to pray for him again this year, and of course there were lots of tears, and God met him in a powerful way. And I'll just tell you this really neat story too that goes with that. I spoke on Sunday morning there. Afterwards we did some ministry. This is when Will was sick. So I take him to a couch to go lay down. I come back out. We're praying for people, and we prayed for Diana, the little girl who's Will's age, the Garmendia girl, and she told us later she had basically what I would call a vision. She said it kind of freaked her out. This only happens when we come. This has happened to her twice, where she's seen like open-eye visions, and they kind of worry her. She doesn't know what to do with them. But what she saw and she saw this other woman, Dunya, whose husband had just went to the United States, and she saw light in both of them and radiating from both of them. These are two people who are in really difficult situations, whom God is very much in their lives. And so Diana was able to encourage him later and say, this is what I saw. And I just think it's incredible how God does that stuff. So anyway, but again, and I wanted to credit you guys because I think that stuff happens there because there's such a prayer focal point. It's like we're saying 1 week, we're going to pray into this trip. We're going to send people down. We're going to put money behind it. And then God does these things that change lives because we're investing in it in every way we know to do that.
And she also said that she saw the light and she heard someone singing,
that's right.
like, "Worthy is the Lamb, worthy is the Son of David, worthy is," like, all this stuff. And it was just like, I don't know, it just felt like a line like straight out of Revelation, kind of like what he experienced in the vision. But
yeah, she heard it audibly.
it was cool.
We're like, I think you're hearing angels singing right now. You're having a heavenly experience.
So it was really cool. But yeah, and Wade prayed for, and just was kind of prophesying. It felt like maybe a call to ministry or something.
Oh, that's right.
And then we kind of saw the rest of it kind of unravel with kind of the story of him and his dad, and just how much, when we prayed for him last year, one of the things he said he felt was just this immense peace, and then kind of through the year he'd kind of lost it and backslid, I think, a little bit, but wanted that back. He wanted to feel it again, and he said when we prayed for him there in the little cabin that he was feeling that peace again. So that was really encouraging.
Super neat to hear the backstories after you pray for people. So I just put this one up here as kind of a placeholder to say we had lots of divine appointments pretty much wherever we went. So this was on the street in La Esperanza. I think we were going to a market doing some souvenir shopping. This is a woman that Paola knew. We got to pray for her. She had eye problems. I think she'd just been to the eye doctor. One time there was, the car broke down when it initially died. Ricardo and Paula's car. The only person who came by on that little dirt road.
It was sideways on the road, so it parked the whole road.
Yeah.
It blocked the whole road.
Was a guy who came by on a motorcycle who happened to be a mechanic, of course. And we got to pray for him, and he said he was having like seizures, or maybe he thought it might be a demon, like at night would bother him. So we got to pray for him. I wrote down another one. The mayor, we were walking after playing some soccer, walking down one of the streets in Jamarangila, and we got to pray for the mayor, who happened to be there. So, and Paula was like, "That's really cool that you got to pray for him. We've had some issues, with them," and it was just a cool divine appointment. So, okay. Oh yeah, someone want to talk about their new house they bought at all? Ricardo and Paula's place. Pretty simple. I just wanted to show you a picture of a house they bought.
So Ricardo and Paula had a home and sold it. There were a couple of issues with kind of the accessibility of that home in the rainy season, but primarily my understanding is that they sold it because they had been planning to move to be caretakers for Ricardo's father, but then he passed away before they actually made the move. And so they are currently living on the church, in the back of the church, in a couple of rooms on the back of the church. But they did purchase this property. It's a few miles outside of Yabaranguilla, and there is a house there, but it needs a lot of work to become kind of a habitable home. But they really have a dream to be able to farm on this land. And Paula and Ricardo are not really different from any of the people they serve in that they are facing their own economic challenges. And so, being able to fix this property up the way they want is kind of a future dream, but they have a lot of ideas they talk about like how might we be able to make a living here in Honduras. And so they had mentioned maybe putting a little Airbnb cabin on part of this property, because this is an area where kind of the city people in Honduras are coming for weekend getaways and stuff like that. But it was really cool to see their space, to hear kind of the dreams they have for it. And so, yeah. Yeah,
there's so many challenges. I mean, it's a great place. It has so much work to do on it. There are also problems with the water there. So the water they get isn't really drinkable, so they have to get the big jugs of water that's drinkable. And I feel like there are probably solutions to some of those things. Maybe down the road in our relationship, maybe we can find ways to help them with some of that. So, oh yeah, so you probably all wondered how the soccer went, because we rented this little field and got to play for an hour. And so, I wanted to make sure to show you father versus son up here. And if you want to show the video to see how it went. Yeah, I don't think
But
Will
he
scored
might
any
go-
goals, and I think I scored like 20. I'm just kidding. I think Will was the best player on the field, but I got one by him, and I'm glad Katie got it on video.
So the place where we're at is like this really tall fenced-in area, and it's like has a big net over the top so the ball can't go out, and it's turf that we're playing on, so I got turf burns on my knee from it, but it was still really fun.
Yeah, I was playing with tennis shoes that didn't have any traction, so I finally figured out like what my top speed was where I could stop. But at one point I was running towards the goal and Paula was in the goal, and I slip and I'm on my back, and then like 2 seconds later she falls. So like she's like from Wade to me away, and we're just laying there dying, and somebody tries to shoot a goal and she blocks it. She was the goalie, and like it just hits her and it bounces off, and it was a highlight of fun on the trip, just being there and having fun. Bunch of little kids, bunch of older people trying to play soccer. It was fun.
Here's what else you need to know about that. We're like altitude, like close to 6,000 feet. Like Jamarangila is the highest altitude in municipality in Honduras. So we're like, at least I was feeling it, but. And then in every video Katie took, I was watching like, oh, I think I hurt Will in that one. Oh, I kicked the ball, and I think I hurt Katie or Margaret in that one. Oh, I think Paula got hurt in that. Thankfully, we came away fairly injury-free. It could have been worse. You want to talk any about this one, Katie? Or
No.
Okay. We talked about Xiomara. Okay? Just a picture in their church, Ricardo leading us in some worship. And, they just kind of play music through the speakers, and he kind of facilitates it through talking and some singing here and there. But an experience I had that was really powerful was, I can't sing most of the songs. I don't speak Spanish well, don't know the words. But I had this experience where I was watching them worship, and it was like God allowed me to worship through their worship. And I just started crying. And it was just a wonderful experience. So they really know how to worship. Here, Katie is sharing a little bit at our last little meeting on Wednesday night. Okay, next. Oh, yeah, I wanted to tell you just a little bit about Lillian and her daughter Alejandra. Lillian, that first night, Saturday night, she didn't really want to come at all to the gathering, the one where Cameron spoke and we had the birthday party. She was dealing with health stuff. She was dealing with anger stuff. But her daughter convinced her, you need to go, you need to go, you need to go. She came. And we were able to pray for her. And she slowly started opening up a little bit more about some of the things she was facing. I said, it sounds like you're dealing with a spirit of anger that is oppressing you. Do you want to get rid of that? Yes, she wants to get rid of that. So I got Ricardo, and we prayed with her, and she forgave the people who'd hurt her. She renounced the anger, and we just broke the power of that. And she felt like this sensation go over. It was like icy hot from her shoulders all the way down. And more tears, it was lots of tears. And we talked to her later, and she's feeling so much better. And that anger, like she got free of that. And she was so glad that she came, that her daughter got her to come. And later, Katie was able to translate. And this was like at the gathering Katie led toward the end of the week. And she told us like her whole story and just unpacked all kinds of crazy stuff. And we told her, just as God took away that anger and healed her soul, he's also going to heal the effects in her body from some of the things she had faced in the past. Like, it was kind of a package deal. So anyway, it was just a wonderful, it's just wonderful. God, he takes up our sorrows. He carries our infirmities, our diseases. Like, he deals with our soul. He deals with our sins. He empowers us to forgive. He deals with our sicknesses. That's what Jesus came to do. So it's wonderful when you see that happen. But again, it was one of those marked moments, life-changing moments for someone that we got the privilege of being a part of. we have any other? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So I did get to, like Wade said, translate for Lilian on Tuesday night. And Cameron and Wade had kind of warned me, like, there's no such thing as a 1-minute God story in Honduras. Like Adam, you'd fit in so well. It's like they're going to give you like 20 years of history, which is kind of what happened that night. But the fact that people are so willing to share their, like, kind of pour out their story, their journey, what, you know, a lot of difficult things they faced in their life. But often, I mean, always, I think with the, like, adding that, like, God has been so faithful, like, God has taken care of me through all of this hardship. But one of the things that really was impressed upon me this week is the blessing of being able to hold someone else's story. Like, when we come and talk and share, like, you get to see pictures, and it's, like, it's so cool to hear when someone comes back from a trip like this. But we had, like, the incredible gift of getting to, like, walk these streets and meet these people and really hear and hold their stories. And if you've ever, you know, traveled, you know what that experience is like. But I also think, like, that's something we get to do here. You know, like, we get to do this in our micro churches. Like, that is the place where you get to share what you're struggling with and have people come around you and pray for you and walk with you through those hardships. And so that, to me, is one of the biggest takeaways of, like, they do an excellent job of making space for that kind of sharing and storytelling and living life with one another. And it's really built into their culture in a way that it's not here. But in our church, we are trying to push back against the part of our culture that says it's all about doing and achieving and getting stuff done and meeting the metrics. Like, we are trying to do that here. And so I would just really encourage you, like, to kind of sink down into that part of what we have here and the community that we have and that opportunity.
Yeah, well said. Well said. There's Will and the Garmendia girls. Diana is 2 days younger than Will. Mm-hmm. Will was taller than just about everybody. There were a couple Hondurans taller than him, but I think I said this last year, but it was fun for me. It's like I'm the tallest person I saw for a week till we went back to the airport. And up in the mountains, they're just smaller up there. So, but beautiful, beautiful people. And there's Ricardo and Paula with their MVVC shirts on, representing. Okay, next. Oh.
So
we're winding down.
Yeah.
We're going to worship here in a
I'll
second.
make this really fast. Early on in the week, our cabin had Wi-Fi, so I just, like, jumped on Facebook to just stay in the loop with, like, local stuff. And I saw our friend Jim Egley post, and if you don't know who Jim Egley is, he's an author. He was a leader in the Vineyard. He does stuff with movements, does a lot of work in Africa of disciple-making movements that are thousands and thousands of reproducing disciples are being made and planting churches, and he's doing a lot of work with that with some organizations that are helping get some of those off the ground. Really, just super smart dude. Got his doctorate, like, basically in small groups, so he's written a lot of really cool small group books. And he has this picture, like, hey, just landed in Honduras. Like, pray for me. I'm going to visit this organization that helps, like, clean water initiatives for underdeveloped regions. And he's wondering if they can help him or do some projects in Africa where he's doing some work. So I text him. I'm like, Jim, we're in Honduras right now. And turns out he's, like, 4.5 hours away from us in, like, a different region. He's like, how long will you be here? And I'm like, well, we're leaving Thursday. He's like, I'm leaving Thursday. He's like, are you going to Houston? I said, yeah. We end up on the same flight as him and his friend coming, like, in Honduras, flying back to Houston. So we got to meet up in the airport and talk a little bit. So this is before we got through security. He came and grabbed us, and he got to meet Ricardo and Paula. But I'm like, this is the craziest thing. Like, I couldn't imagine, like, if we just got to the airport and ran into him, I would have lost my mind. It was so cool to see such a good friend. We've traveled. We've ran into him in airports on the way to national conferences. And in California, we met him at a conference and, like, kind of hung out for a couple of days afterwards. And Kansas City once. So I don't think we've ever seen him in Ohio. But he's a really cool.
I saw him in Lancaster once.
Okay. But he's a really, really good friend of the Vineyard, friend of our church, I think, largely, and it was just crazy.
So yeah, this was the icing on the cake, right? And we didn't know who his travel partner was. We didn't meet him. We sit down on the plane to head to Houston, and Will and I take our seats, and about 15 seconds after sitting down, the guy sitting next to me, I realized is the guy Jim's traveling with. And we ended up telling God stories and on the plane. And there's a picture of, Alex. And I'll tell you a real quick version of his testimony. I said, so how'd you come to the Lord? He's like, well, I was Catholic, but I didn't know the Lord. I had malaria 3 times. I was in the Peace Corps. He said it would have been better to die than get malaria. The 3rd time I prayed to God. And I said, God, if you're there, I need your help. And audible voice of God spoke back. God said, I am real, and you do need me. He said he had this experience like he was being dipped in hot lava twice. He went into these visions. Some of these visions related to end times kind of stuff. He was telling me some of these visions he had in that moment. And he's not really a believer, right? But and then he comes out of that experience. He's healed from malaria. He's also healed from diabetes he's had his whole life, and eye problems that were caused by the diabetes, and a number of other things. So, that has been a foundation of his testimony, and now he travels with Jim and does things around the world. So anyway, it's like, God, are you serious? Like, of course, you're going to put me on the plane next to this guy, and we're going to have a great time. So Will and I enjoyed hearing the stories. So it was a wonderful trip. God's hand was on it, and again, I attribute that to our corporate just pressing into God and praying that he would be intricately involved, and that's what we saw.
This last one's a video from Ricardo and Paula, and they were joking about wanting to say, they didn't say it in the video, but they're like, oh, we want to tell your church, like, oh, we just want to keep Katie so bad. We're going to send Cameron and Wade back, but we just want to keep Katie here with us.
They called her the queen. This is their queen.
They didn't have the guts to say it in the video, because I think they wanted to be respectful. But they were joking about it. We had a really good laugh.
Hola a todos hermanos, ¿cómo están?
Hi everyone, hi brothers and sisters, how's everything going?
Muchas bendiciones para todos ustedes.
Many blessings to all of you.
Estamos muy bendecidos con la presencia de Wade,
We're very blessed.
Cameron, Katie y Will.
We were very blessed this week because we had to spend time with Wade, Katie, Cameron and Will.
Ha sido una semana muy emocionante para nosotros.
It's been a very exciting week for us.
Hemos pasado un tiempo maravilloso juntos.
We have had a great time together.
También la iglesia en Yamaranguila ha sido muy bendecida con la visita de
And the
todos
church in
ellos.
Yamaranguila has been very blessed with their visit.
Y tuvimos muchas experiencias maravillosas.
We had many marvelous experiences this week.
Haciendo ministerio, visitando
Doing
muchas
ministry,
personas,
visiting many people,
haciendo iglesia pequeña
and having micro churches,
y tomando café y caminando,
drinking coffee, walking,
jugando fútbol
playing soccer,
y muchas otras cosas más.
and many other things.
Pero a través de estas actividades esta semana,
But through all these activities that we were able to do this past week,
también pudimos ver a mucha gente recibiendo regalos del Señor.
we were able to see many people receiving gifts from God.
Mucha gente siendo ministrada por el Espíritu Santo.
Many people they were able to be they were receiving the Holy Spirit,
Mucha gente siendo animada
and many people were encouraged.
y otros siendo liberados.
We were able to see people getting deliverance. They were set free.
Y muchos de ellos entendiendo llamados y instrucciones específicas del Señor.
And many of them receiving calling and very specific instructions from God.
Así que ha sido una semana emocionante para todos nosotros.
So it's been a very exciting week for all of us.
Quisiéramos que ellos se quedaran más tiempo con nosotros
And we would love them to stay longer with us
y seguir haciendo ministerio juntos
and to keep doing
en este
ministry
lugar.
together in this place.
Pero creo que tendremos una próxima oportunidad.
But we believe we will have another opportunity.
Así que una vez más, gracias por todo su apoyo.
So once again, thank you for all your support.
Gracias por estar orando por nosotros todo el
Thank you
tiempo.
for always praying for us.
y por todas las cosas que están haciendo para nosotros y para la iglesia en Yamaranguila.
And thank you for all the great things you're doing for the church in Yamaranguila and for us.
Y también para toda nuestra comunidad.
And for all of our community.
Así que Dios les bendiga.
So God bless you all.
Y les amamos.
We love you all.
Hasta pronto.
Soon. See you soon.